You don't have the underhook.
I don't have the underhook. Very good. So when I don't have the underhook, sometimes you'll feel like you have a successful pass, especially at a beginner level, and you'll just continue to pass with it. Because I don't have the underhook, Matt's already on my back. And that's a big mistake, right? So what can we do when we don't have the underhook? Besides repummeling, because if he was giving me a big gap here, you guys can see this gap, I would just take it back. And now Matt will take it back for me. Perfect. Okay, now what I'll do is start to sit heavy on him and force him to do his next action, which is like bump me forward, but he needs to get up to this elbow as well. So as he starts to bump me and get up to his bottom elbow, freeze right there. You can see how this is similar to the last technique where I see an arm that I want to attack, and you can counter someone underhooking me from here. So what you're going to do is, again, lead your hand through. In this scenario, even for myself, I'm never really able to get a lock of the Kimura. So what I'm doing is I'm just flaring my hand. I'm just using the back of my hand as like a placeholder, okay? So Matt has the underhook on me, I'm in trouble. I still have that posting foot, but instead of sitting back, I'm going to jump laterally. I'm going to jump over him sideways, and then as I jump, I put my hand on the floor. As I jump, you say I lock the position again. Very common, my opponent holds my leg, and I actually like this position in general when it comes to controlling crucifix, because I can manage his hips. So a lot of times people will hold my leg here, I don't really care. Okay? I'll still focus on getting my Kimura. From this position, when the opponent holds my leg, like I said, I'll sometimes, and I'll give you guys some different options, because technically, I can just kick my foot free and we're back to where we were. And that's important, getting back to where we were, right? That's the goal of today. But if my opponent holds my leg, I control Matt's hip. What I'll do is I'll just control his hand with one arm. Remember that flaring hand? It tries to control as close as I can to his wrist. I like to get that half hand, half wrist. It's like the sort of sweet spot on the grip. Because if I grab like deeper down the forearm, he stretches his arm straight and you lose it. And if I lose it, like if he breaks, what's the rule? We need to keep this shoulder controlled and off the ground. You can always just go like a elbow to elbow grip and just keep his arm, and then you can recollect Kimura. So even if you have the wrist and he frees his hand, just recollect, you're fine. Okay? But remember, we're using this leg inside against him. So what we'll do is we'll take a one-hand grip, and you're going to take your thumb and start to reach underneath his neck. Now I can start feeding for the collar, and I can start pulling across for a one-handed choke. So when I say pull across, I am pulling, but what you need to do is use the action of your wrist to flare into his neck. And with a one-handed choke, I'll even start to drive. I need some counter pressure behind his head, and I can use my chest or even my shoulder to lift up, and that tapped me here. Okay? If you ever feel like you're doing this, and you can't tap, then I'll go back to Kimura and go back to our first attack anyway. So you always have this as a backup plan. When I'm going for the choke here, the one rule, remember we can't get his shoulder to the ground. So if Matt starts scooting down and his head hits the ground, that's bad for me. That's an escape route for Matt. You always want their head on your chest. So if this happens, not the worst thing. It's bad for me in that I lose control of the crucifix, but you can always still come up inside control and go back for attacks, okay? So what I want us to do, completely different entry, but similar concept, because we're taking the far arm and we're Kimura. We're setting up our attack. So when Matt gets up to his elbow, when you're drilling, just ask him to stop right there, and then you can set this up. With a flared hand, notice how his head's in front of my chest. You want to get behind him, right? So you can post your hand, you can walk with Kimura, whatever helps you, but you have to jump over him sideways, almost like a back step. Here. Most of the time, I find my opponent grabs my leg, we don't care. We like this control with our leg in the hip. We're going to call this a grapevine, similar to like a back grapevine. So I have my grapevine in, I can play one hand, and I can start setting up the choke. Remember, we need counter pressure under the head. I'll use my shoulder or my chest. I can even start pulling them upward. You could also rear naked choke. I just don't find like I have as much counter pressure behind the head here, but play with it. If you guys do a lot of no-gi, and you would use this in no-gi, notice I don't actually need any grips. You could one hand, cup your hand behind your shoulder, and attack a rear naked choke with your leg here. And then if you want, you can go back to kicking your leg and continuing your web of attacks. So